Welcome back. You're watching Iron India, and we're discussing how we can improve the lot of farmers. What's the roadmap and the action agenda? Jatin, let me ask you now again, in terms of short-term interventions that you believe could address the current distress, forget the past distress, the current distress, which is a problem of plenty, not a problem of too little.
I think when you are giving MSPs, that there should be a quick way of actually spending money and buying stuff. Here the problem is that you have declared MSP, but the whole cycle of that purchase needs to be coordinated. I also feel that the crop insurance scheme that has been implemented, and it's a very tight scheme. I think it's thought out for a generation the way it is being done. I think on the implementation side, see, the problem is that a farmer over the life cycle of a crop has multiple risks. Okay, this policy addresses that risk at different points. The key thing is that, and it's not that it's not happening, but it has to be made faster. That every time a risk Rubicon is crossed, the payment is made immediately. And so that's what. See, here there is amount of money that has always been set aside for taking care of a contingency. Okay, now the contingency needs to be fired at exactly the right time. And the third thing that the government is doing, but it's a hard thing to do, is to have an integrated database across farmers from all over the country. In India, it is so difficult to identify who the farmer is. And
I want to pick up on each of those points, Mr. Dalwai, and pick up on the crop insurance scheme, because there has been a lot of criticism that while this scheme was announced with a lot of fanfare, it hasn't found benefits really with the farming community. In fact, it hasn't found many takers now as far as this particular scheme is concerned. How do we address that challenge? Because this is going to be something that we're going to have to deal with not just for the next few months, but over the next few years, given the vagaries as far as weather patterns is concerned, and Jatin knows best about that.
Should give me a minute after him.
I will.
Yeah, I agree with you. In fact, the new scheme, the PMFBY, is a market-driven scheme, which means that we are trying to reach out to as many farmers as possible, and that's possible only with market intervention, because agriculture is the riskiest profession anywhere, and it is very difficult to hold on to the insurance companies. So now with larger volumes, we guess that the premium rates will go down, and we see over a period of time the premium rates will go down. But what is really required is that we have a technology where the crop cutting experiments are accurate, the results are transparent, and then the credibility among all the stakeholders is there. I guess with the introduction of new technology that we have adopted in terms of both ICT platform as well as now the remote sensing technology that we are bringing in, I can foresee that over a period of time, all the stakeholders, the insurance companies, the farmers and the state government, so the principal stakeholders will see merit in this thing.
Before I go back to Jatin, and again, for the benefit of our viewers, this is a complex issue. It does not have a one-size-fits-all solution, and it does not have any quick-fix solutions either. This needs a comprehensive approach. So I come back, sir, given the challenge that we're faced with today, and that seems to be reflected in the electoral results and the electoral verdict as well, that you have a situation where there is record production, and yet you have a situation where prices have collapsed. Now, what do you do in a situation like this?
Yeah, as they say, success is its own enemy. Today, India is surplus in several commodities. So we need to find markets for that. And in fact, our committee has said very clearly that a market is defined not just by the human mouths or the cattle feed. It has to go beyond that, which means that we need to integrate agriculture with agro-industries so that the agriculture, surplus agriculture produced starts finding value through processing. It is food processing, non-food processing. For example, the latest policy of the government, where now...
The agri-export policy, which has just been cleared by the cabinet.
Yeah, no, apart from that, when I was trying to say that we integrate agriculture as an industry, I meant the policy on the sugar cane. India, for example, last 10-year data shows that we don't need more than 26 million tons of sugar. But whereas we have been producing 32, 34 million tons, obviously the market is bound to suffer to the disadvantage of the farmer. So the government's revised policy now says that we can use B-heavy molasses as well as the sugarcane juice to produce ethanol. And further, ethanol has been also allowed for blending at higher percentage with the petroleum products. This way, we'll be able to now suck out the surplus from agriculture sector, find a new market. I guess that's the way forward.
Okay. No, the fair point that could be the way forward. Larger focus towards ethanol blending, for instance, to address the kind of challenges that the sugar sector has faced with, which has also been debt-laden. Yogendra Yadav, like this one example, this practical example that we just talked about, ethanol blending, and you gave us several other recommendations. In the near to medium term, what are the interventions that should be prioritized?
Shereen, the question I keep asking myself, why is it that the farmers grow so much sugarcane? Are they in love with sugarcane? Do they want to eat more of it, take back home? Do they find it very easy to produce? No. The simple answer is this is the only crop in which, for various reasons, they are assured of a somewhat decent return. If this is promised in other crops, farmers would easily shift from sugarcane to others. We don't need to produce that much sugarcane. We are literally exporting water from our country to outside. We don't need to do that. The simple answer is we need to find ways of supplementing farmers' income. Mr. Dalwai has given very decent answers. The simple question remains, and I don't know if it's fair to ask him those questions. I really wanted to ask the agriculture minister of this country these questions. But the kind of agriculture minister this government has for the last 4.5 years is itself an indication of how non-serious this government is about agriculture. The simple questions are the following. You have a 6-year target for doubling of farmers' income. It's 2.5 years. Why doesn't the government publish data to say how much have we covered in the last 2.5 years? You have passed APMC Act. BJP says every day and night we have government in 20 states. It all needs a wink from the Prime Minister of this country, and by tomorrow the states, at least 18 states of this country, will pass the act. Why does that not happen? Why do we not have even the recommendations of Dalwai Committee, final recommendations, which were submitted some 2-3 months ago?
Yeah.
Why can't I, as a citizen, see those recommendations?
Okay.
On MSP, why doesn't the ministry simply issue statistics to say finally aggregated, not disaggregated? Simple one aggregated table. I'm sure they are interested in this, on what is the actual market price and how much is the actual market price below the MSP promised by the government.
Okay.
Then we begin to speak, then we are politically serious. I understand all these great structural reforms, but right now it's only 4 months to go. We need to see something big, something that can make a difference, something that shows a political will and political intent, which is missing. I'm not even sure if I should ask anyone on the panel about those questions.
It would be unfair to put Mr. Dalwai in that spot, but I am nevertheless going to give you an opportunity to respond to what you just heard there from Yogendra Yadav. Mr. Dalwai.
Yeah, the first thing is that with due respects to Professor Yogendra, I would like to speak on behalf of my minister. I would like to emphasize here that he is highly committed to this transformation. It is in fact he who constituted this committee, and he has gone through our recommendations and he has accepted those things. What I would like to tell Professor Yogendra is that yes, why should the farmer grow only sugar cane? The farmer is a rational economic animal. He will grow where there's money. I think what now the new policies of the government are trying to do is to bring about intercrop comparison.
Yeah.
Since we were highly centric around paddy and wheat,
right,
and today we would like to see diversification in alignment to the crop ecology or the agroecology, as they say, we should be ensuring that there is remunerative return on other crops.
Yes.
So therefore, the rise in the MSP for the cereals, for including the millets, for example, the pulses and oil seeds, will now incentivize the farmer to move away from paddy and wheat to nutri-cereals and other crops.
Right.
And then I think the technology that the scientists have given us, that the crop production or including the dairy and animal husbandry should all be promoted in alignment to the agroecology will happen. I think the pricing was the main thing. I guess we have now started focusing on post-production, which is not just price, not just market, but agri-logistics in terms of storage, in terms of transportation, as also processing. And the transformation that the Ministry of Food Processing is bringing about, including allowing for FDI investments, I think over a period of time, we will see positive transformations.
Well, those are all directionally positive changes, and we're hoping that it will in fact realize on the ground. But to Yogendra Yadav's point, in the next few months, Is there something, is there a big ticket idea that we can expect to alleviate some of the pain that's very clearly being felt?
Yeah. See, one of the major challenges, I mean, we have been speaking about it, is how do we find remunerative prices on the agriculture produce? Now, the market reforms that were initiated, yes, they will take their own time. And we also know, not only in India, but globally, the agriculture markets can never be perfect, which means that there will be vicissitudes in the market. And therefore, one of the important things that government has done is to broad base the procurement and see that wherever the MSPs are notified, we have a strong procurement mechanism.
Okay.
So today, in terms of interventions, we have gone beyond the price support scheme and brought in price deficiency system. And we have told the state governments that they have the freedom to choose from any of the basket that we have offered them.
Yeah.
And we are now slowly and steadily seeing that the number of commodities being procured is increasing. The quantum being procured is increasing, and it is going beyond the traditional states. We were always seeing 7 to 8 states doing it and other states not doing it. We have advised the state governments that in order to complete this virtuous cycle, not only should they procure, but they should also integrate them into the PDS, so that the nutritional aspect of the people also is taken care of. I guess that is what is required, that if we are able to strengthen the MSP-based procurement, which we are at now, I'm sure the farmers will find some solace on this front.
Okay, Amit, very quickly, roadmap for the next few months.
Sure. So I think let me start off from the demand side. The reality is that the Indian retail market in food is going to touch 482 billion by 2020. So the point is that there is demand. I think the critical question is that can we break that demand down to something which works for the farmers in the immediate term and in the mid and long term. So to start with, for example, if I have to look at the immediate things which can be done, as Dr. Dalwai spoke, the first is ensuring that the MSP procurement schemes get implemented, all the 3 types which have been outlined and I think tested. But the second part along with that, and I would call it the short-term victory, would be to identify the farmers who are immediately involved both for Rabi, but also in the fruits and vegetable sector.
Okay.
And look at the immediate areas from where, especially peri-urban areas, where procurement can be done quickly and rapidly, which enhances income. But along with that, and I think that's very important, some of the policies which have been rolled out, so for example, ENAM, digital agriculture, as well as the work which is going on market reforms and value chain optimization. I think it's absolutely critical that it reaches the final place. If we look at the past, what I am seeing is that there is the production challenge. To some extent, governments have started responding to it.
Okay.
And as a result, we are having high scale of production. But the farmers are now stuck saying, yes, we've got production, where do we go?
Jatin, very quickly, roadmap.
I think I have a slightly difficult position on this. I think lowest hanging fruit is livestock. I think if you really want to do something, you really need to relook at the beef ban. It's unpopular. There's a religious angle to this, and it's not working in the states that they were from. I mean, it's not. People are upset what you do when it's not lactating. We have stopped exports of ruminants from Maharashtra and Gujarat. I think that will give immediate relief. Beyond that, I think we really, this country needs to take a stab at GM. Crops. You have a situation, and I will argue in favor of the government. This government has not seen a half-decent monsoon in the last 5 years. The last normal monsoon was 2016. There have been 2 back-to-back droughts. Okay, you have massive productivity issues. Your soil health has gone down. We need to take a call on creating high-value horticultural crops in a very difficult environment, which is deficient in rainfall, and you have this massive climate instability coming.
Okay, 30 seconds, Yogendra Yadav. One priority only that you would like the government to focus on.
2. 1. Please pass that legislation in Lok Sabha about assured income to farmers, which is not merely MSP. It means better procurement, more market intervention, direct income support if necessary, reorientation of import policy, and reduction of input subsidy, input cost. All these are integrated into that bill. Please do that. And if you don't, there is no option except to go for a national loan waiver. I know we don't like it, but if you deprive a sector for years and years and years, put them in debt which they are not responsible for, what do you do about it?
Okay.
Forget farmers, think of any other sector of economy.
Yeah.
What would we be talking about?
Sure. Mr. Dalwai, 30 seconds. National loan waiver, you have no information at this point in time.
Yes.
But on the other issue of the pending legislation, do you believe that in this session of Parliament, perhaps that could go through?
No, we don't believe that there is necessity for a legislation on the MSP front. MSP is notified, government is committed to that. Government is also committed to procurement, and that has already been notified and rolled out. So I see there's no reason for any legislation. We need a commitment from government, and government is committed to that.
Okay.
But all of the suggestions that Professor Yogendra has made are appropriate, and we accept those things, and we are working on those things.
What is your top priority today?
My top priority today for the emergent situation is to have a broad-based procurement parallel to reforms. So all the state governments need to come on board. They need to understand that we have no option but to reform the markets, liberalize, break the monopoly of the APMCs, so that the farmer starts benefiting. And that's what should happen.
And that requires political will as well. Mr. Dalwai, Amit, Jatin and Yogendra Yadav, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. This is a relevant discussion. And as we've been doing here on CNBC TV 18, actually for the last 4 years, we will continue to delve on what's ailing rural India and bring you a roadmap for change. This is just one of our attempts at being able to do that. For now, from all of us here, goodbye. Many thanks for watching.